Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the app, which has nothing to do with computers. In this case, the app stands for ARKLATEX People and Politics. I'm Jeff Beinfor, and our special guest right over here is Congressman Cleo Fields.
How you doing,
Cleo?
Jeff?
It's a pleasure to see you. Thanks for being here.
Always good to see you.
Absolutely. So, first of all, just tell us why you're up in the ARKLATEX here.
Well, tonight I'm having a town hall meeting. I'm doing a series of 4 town hall meetings across the district. Tonight is Shreveport's night.
Yeah.
And just to hear from the people of Shreveport, just want to know what their concerns are.
Well, you're really working hard in the district because it feels like you just did this, and we were down with you at your other town hall.
Yeah, we have a week. We have a week off a month, and every month I come home and do town hall meetings. Actually, I come back every week, but.
Yeah.
Once a month, I try to have town hall meetings across the district.
And the turnout you had the first time here in Shreveport was huge. You had a big turnout.
Absolutely. I mean, people are really concerned, and they want to know what's going on in Washington.
Sure.
They want to add their opinion to what they think we should be doing, and I just think that's representative government.
Sure.
I mean, it's not something I feel bad about doing. I love doing it. I mean, it's a real good way to get the pulse of the people, and it helps me govern once I get to Washington.
And we'll talk more about the town halls in just a minute, but I got to ask you about just upcoming on Monday.
Yes.
Is the oral arguments at the Supreme Court about the redistricting map in Louisiana, District 6, which you represent, and the Attorney General will be arguing to defend that map, and if it doesn't go her way, your way, the state's way, well, that would be a problem for you, right? So, give me your thoughts on what you feel is going to happen there.
Well, I mean, look, this is my second rodeo,
yeah.
So I feel good. I really feel good. When the district was created, the legislature complied with all principles of redistricting. And the Supreme Court, they're going to look at what they want to know tomorrow is, or Monday, was the sole creation, or sole reason for the district, was it race? Was race the predominant factor for the creation of the district? And I think the legislature made a very good record, and the answer to that question is no. The district looks the way it looks, not primarily because of race, but because of politics. And the record is pretty clear, and I think the justices, once they see the record, once they hear the arguments, the district will stand.
So politics is a legitimate reason
Yes.
for shaping a district, right?
Yes. The Supreme Court has articulated, you can't take the politics out of politics.
Right.
So
Right.
The legislature's prerogative is to draw districts, so they realize it's a political process. But when the Louisiana Legislature got the orders to draw a district that complied with the Voting Rights Act, they had to do so, and the district looks the way it looks. Solely because of politics, how people felt politically in the Louisiana legislature. And race was not the predominant factor. And I think the Supreme Court is going to look at that, and they're going to say, okay, the district shall stand, and then we'll move on. And but everybody is going to have their day in court, and that day is going to be on Monday.
Yeah. Well, I think it may be a problem that a lot of people have when they look at that district is the shape of it. I mean, you look at it and it stretches from Baton Rouge to Shreveport, and that does seem to be kind of an oddly drawn district. Or is it? Or am I wrong?
I mean, if you look at the old 6th congressional district, it looks worse than this one. I mean, it
Yeah.
literally. I mean, if you want to look at it, do an eyeball test. I mean, it was a U-shaped district.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is not the longest district in Louisiana.
Okay.
I mean, look at Congresswoman Julia Letlow's district.
Number
It moves.
district,
Yeah, it moves from, Monroe down the Florida parishes. Then I mean, it is a very long
That's
district.
true. Yeah.
Look at the Speaker's district. I mean, it is
That's true.
It
That
would
is
take
big.
longer
Yeah.
to go from one end of his district to the next, staying in the district, than
Yeah.
it would take for mine. Mine is pretty compact when you look at it from that perspective. You know, I have Interstate 49. It follows the Red River. You know, and people make arguments about the 6th district, but the 6th district is more compact than other districts in the state.
Okay.
And it is much more compact than the previous 6th congressional district. Now, if I had my ruthers, it would have been, you know, district from Monroe to Baton Rouge. But the politics drove it from Shreveport to Baton Rouge, and and the courts will say, okay, well, that's fine. It is no longer than in most districts in the state, and it complies with all voting principles.
When when all these arguments come up and people want to argue against it, et cetera, is it hard not to take this personally?
No, I don't take it personal.
Okay.
No,
It's
not
still
at
all
all.
politics.
Not at all. No.
Okay, good.
I mean, look, when you get to a point you start taking these kind of things,
Right.
Jeff, personal, you need to get out of politics. I try not to take any of this personal. People have very strong views on both sides. Louisiana's minority population in the state is over a third.
Yeah.
And there are 6 members of Congress, and a third of the state should have the right to elect a candidate of their choice. And the courts have said, if you can draw a district that's compact and meet all of the principles of redistricting, then you should. And obviously we have done that. And I, you know, the Supreme Court is you know, I don't want to second guess the Supreme Court, but I would find it highly unusual for them to say to the legislature, you did it wrong, go do it again. I would think that they're going to say, listen, you know, you comply with all redistricting principles. Race was not the predominant factor in the way to, you know, in drawing this district. That's not the reason why it looks the way it looks. That was y'all's own personal politics.
Right, gotcha.
And that's okay. But look, the plaintiffs have a right to had a right to bring their lawsuit. They brought it. They have a right to be heard in court. They will on Monday, and then the Supreme Court will articulate its decision, and then hopefully it'll be, you know, it's over, and then we move on and continue to do what we've been doing.
That'd be the end of it then. And
That'll be the end.
That'll put a close to something that's been going on for like, what, four years or so?
Yes. And look, you know, everybody has very deep feelings about redistricting. There's been talk about taking it out of the legislature's hands and put it in the hands of a private commission, but look, you know, the Constitution gives the state legislature the right to redistrict. And every time you have redistricting, most of the times there's always a big fight, and you know, people take it very seriously, and that's why we have the courts, and the courts will ultimately be the final arbitrator as to what's right, what's wrong. I just feel very confident that they're going to say what we did as a legislature was right, and we move on.
And you'll be there, right?
Yes.
In the Supreme Court.
Yes, I plan to attend. Yes.
You'll be there. Okay.
I'm not making any arguments.
Right. No.
I am going, you know, to witness the arguments on both sides.
Sure. Well, you should. I mean, that's pretty important.
Because, you know, I was there when the district was created in the legislature. And so I know what the record holds. And I want to see how both sides present their case in the court. And the justices will make the determination or the decision as to what's right and what's wrong.
Well, I mean, it's going to be I don't want to say a landmark case, but it kind of is a landmark case for the rest of the country, too.
Yeah,
Not just Louisiana.
it is the first one up. Alabama would come after us, but this will set the stage as to, you know, as to other districts across the country.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah, and the record is so good and so clear. I mean, and I'm glad I was there to help make it. The record is good. I mean, 32 years ago, it was not so good because, you know, when legislators started saying, I want this in my district, I don't want that in my district, you know, the lines just kept moving, and then it, you know, it moved from Shreveport, then Monroe, and then down to, you know, the Mississippi, and it just, and the courts finally said, you know, you didn't follow the principles. In this case, we did. I mean, all the redistricting principles were followed, and I think will satisfy the Supreme Court, and we could finally put this issue behind us.
That'd be a good feeling, right, to get it behind you?
Yeah, for the people, you know. I mean, we've had these debates, and I'm glad it's at the final stage. I'm glad it's at the Supreme Court.
Right.
There is no appeal to this court, and I'm confident that the Supreme Court will rule the right way. And if the Supreme Court rules adverse to what I think, then it is the order of the court, of the highest court of the land. You know, it's the end. I mean, then you know, I am one who will respect the rulings of the court, and
excellent.
And if they choose to rule the opposite way, then it will be respected by this gentleman. But I just don't think they're going to do that. I think following the law, they will rule that Louisiana complied with all elements of redistricting, you know, principles.
All right, very good. Well, let's move on to another topic, and let's talk about some of the stuff going on up in the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and that's a lot. I mean, that is a lot. That kind of minimizes it. Yeah, it's way more than a lot, right?
It is.
And one of your big planks in your legislative agenda is early childhood education. You and I have talked about that before. And now the president is moving to dismantle the Department of Education. I've got to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm totally against it because I do think there needs to be a national hub for education in our country, and that is the Department of Education. I mean, if there is a department we need, it's the Department of Education. But the president said when he was running for office that he wanted to do away with the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. This shouldn't be new to anybody.
Right.
And so now he's following through on his plan. But there is one serious problem. He can't get rid of something he didn't create. The Department of Education was created not by the executive branch, not by the president. It was created by the Congress. Mm-hmm. And only Congress can get rid of the Department of Education. But you know, he and Elon Musk, they have this approach that, you know, send Elon in to just get rid of the employees, which is unconstitutional, and then I'll come and I'll start eliminating the programs. But the Department of Education, everybody knows, it plays a very vital role. There are a lot of kids under Title IX. Mm-hmm. They need the Department of Education, you know, for data purposes. Mm-hmm. You know, you need the Department of Education to try to see what schools are doing good, what schools are not doing so well. You know, Pell Grants, you know, financial loans, you know. I mean, that's always been the role of the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. The arguments that we need to send it back to the states. Well, education is already in the states. Mm-hmm. You know, the states are responsible for education, you know, but you got to have somebody to be over everything. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the money goes to the federal Department of Education. The money goes to the individual states. I just started an education caucus in Congress. Because education should always be on the forefront. I mean, the forefront of every members of Congress mind. And you know, I just think it's unfortunate that the president has taken such a draconian approach when countries across this world are putting more into education, mm-hmm. Focusing more on education. We seem to be doing just the opposite, but I think the courts will ultimately rule that you can't dismantle the education. I mean, the executive branch can't dismantle the Department of Education. Only Congress can do that. And this here's another, issue that we're waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on.
Well, I mean, I get one of the arguments I heard is lower income students, more underprivileged students will be hurt the most. Is that something you agree with?
Well, I think all students will be hurt. I mean, you got kids with disability. The Department of Education is to make sure that these kids are treated a certain way,
Sure.
And when you do away with that, that's not, low-income kids or high-income kids. Those are kids with disability. You got, I mean, if you want to, I guess Pell Grants would certainly hurt kids who are who are at the lower bracket of the economic bracket. Loans certainly don't. I mean, loans are available to all kids, kids who have and kids who have not. The data that goes, that the Department of Education compile, I mean, it helps districts all across this country.
Now, I have heard the argument made that America continues to pour more and more money into education, but the test scores aren't doing so good across the country. Does one correlate with the other?
No. I mean, first of all, so tell me, we do away with the Department of Education. What impact that's going to have on test scores? I mean, kids are going to wake up in the morning and say, okay, we don't have a Department of Education. I'm going to study more. I'm going to read better. I'm going to do math better. No. I mean, look, all of these window dressing ideals, it's kind of like Elon Musk, going into a department, taking, 3,000 people's jobs and then getting on a platform with a chainsaw and celebrating it, not realizing, those are families. Those are over 1,000 families you just affected. Some mother will not be able to pay her mortgage. Some parent will not be able to keep their kid in school. It's not a laughing matter. And I would hope that in this country we start doing things that are more sensitive and stop making a mockery out of it all, because that's the way I feel that we're doing. And but no, there's no indication that it's going to improve the quality of education, not in Louisiana, not in Mississippi, not anywhere in the country. And it's just showcasing.
Yeah. Well, Louisiana is making some strides in education.
Absolutely. Louisiana is finally, turning the page. And I say to people all the time, if we really want to make a big difference in this country, invest in early childhood education.
Yeah. I know you really believe in that.
I truly believe in it, because if we invest in kids early and give them a shot at life, where parents won't have to, mothers won't be choosing between, do I stay home and take care of my baby or do I go to work? Invest in early childhood education. Don't wait till the 3rd grade and then give a kid a reading test and say he or she is reading below grade level. There's a reason for that, because we didn't give them, they didn't have an early start at life. They didn't have Head Start. They didn't have early childhood. Just until 3 years ago, they didn't even have to go to kindergarten, for crying out loud. I got my colleagues in the legislature, we passed mandatory kindergarten. Because when we invest in kids early, on the front side, we don't have to invest as much on the back side. Kids don't grow up, they're not born hating school, It's what we do from the time they're born to the, 3rd grade. But when they get to the 3rd grade and they can't read, or they can't do math or numbers, they don't like school.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you want to go to class if everybody's reading but you. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
school
course.
becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I just think that we as a government, we need to invest in kids early.
Well, tell me more about this. You mentioned a few minutes ago that you've created an education caucus in Congress. Tell me about that
Yeah,
a little bit.
we're sending out a Dear Colleague letter this week, or actually next week, to get other members to join. I didn't know they didn't have an education caucus.
Oh.
We started it 32 years ago when I was there last time.
Okay.
I just think education needs to be a major issue in our Congress. And I've talked to many of my colleagues. They're interested in being members. It's going to concentrate from early childhood education to higher education. And we want members of Congress to start zeroing in on, how do we address, early childhood education? What can Congress do to make, to open up more slots for kids so that they can get a head start? I mean, that's why we call it Head Start, so they can get a head start in life. And many of my colleagues are interested, and they're excited about it. So hopefully we can get the ball running.
Well, you mentioned Elon Musk. You've mentioned him a few times here while we've been talking, and Doge. Obviously, you're not a fan. But what's going on the other side of that with these attacks on the Tesla dealerships and all that stuff, that seems to be a bit too much.
No, look, we shouldn't be bombing Tesla dealerships, cars. Anybody who does that, you're absolutely wrong. And I speak to that moment. That's wrong. Shouldn't be done. But listen, Elon Musk has been given unfeathered authority to wreak havoc on the people of this country. What do I mean by that? You got a mother sitting at her desk, and then you walk in and you say you go home, and her office was created by the Congress, not by the president. How do you think she feels? You say to a disabled veteran, you go home too. How do you think he feels? I mean, listen, you cannot, look, is there fraud and perhaps waste, even abuse in government agencies? Yes. Should we end it? Yes. But you don't do it by coming and just wiping out, programs and closing, programs like the, Financial Protection Bureau.
Yeah.
I mean, just tell the whole office, go home. And then they say, you have no authority here, Mr. Musk. You go home. And then they go back and get the police and look.
So take a more surgical approach.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, these are people's lives. These are people's jobs. These are human beings, for crying out loud. And then to go celebrate it with a chainsaw. I mean,
I can tell you're upset. I didn't mean to upset you.
No, I'm not upset, Jeff. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. I mean, you're hurting real innocent people.
But I mean, there's people that come down on the other side of that thing
Absolutely.
and say we're $37 trillion in debt, and something's got to be done to kind of rein in the size of government.
Yeah, you rein it in, but you don't do it this way.
Okay.
You don't do it this way. There are so many innocent people that's been unconstitutionally attacked.
Okay.
There's a way. We have a system in our country. There's a way we do things. There's a right way and a wrong way. And he's going about it the wrong way. But he doesn't know any better. Smart guy, yes, but he just doesn't know any better. He just gets out there and he said, look, I'm going to save the taxpayers billions of dollars, and he have sent a lot of people home who, by the way, are going to, the courts, in my view, are going to say you did it wrong, and you owe them back pay. So are you really saving the government money?
Yeah.
Well,
if that's the case, then no. Right?
Yeah, look, and I believe, and I sincerely believe this, that the Supreme Court will say it, and they are saying it, The district courts are saying it, and I think ultimately the Supreme Court will back the district courts up and say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
You know.
But there's still a way to. You agree that the waste and I mean it's clearly there's a lot of waste. And that's got to be done away with.
Well, there is waste and abuse. I do not disagree with him or anybody on that point.
Yeah.
We both have the same motive, but we have a very different method.
Different approach.
Yeah, you don't just come and he's taking a chainsaw and just, you go in and you do a scaffold. You say, okay, here's the waste, let's cut this out. Here's the abuse, let's cut that out. Yeah. But that takes some thought, and to go in and just wipe out whole departments that you really don't have jurisdiction over, by the way, is unconscionable. Where you're affecting real people with real lives. Think about it. If somebody walked in here today and said to you, "You gone, just go." Now,
by the way, that's happened a couple of times.
Well, I got it, but how you felt when it did.
Oh, I had felt horrible. Yes.
I mean, you're talking about thousands of employees for no good reason other than I'm Elon Musk. And the president gave me the right to do this.
I got you.
But the courts will ultimately decide.
Okay.
And I think the courts will decide on the side of what's constitutional, and many things that he has done has been unconstitutional and unconscionable.
All right. Good discussion. Let's switch gears a little bit.
All right.
Talk more about your town halls. And you've had you've done this will be the fourth one this week?
This week, yeah.
For this week. Yeah. So you're busy, and talk about some of the topics that are most on the minds of your constituents.
Well, I mean, people are very expressive in these town hall meetings, and I wish I could give them the relief that they deserve. But as one member of Congress, I can't. I mean, only one of 435. People are upset that, they're losing their jobs. They're about to lose their health care. They don't like a private citizen walking into the IRS, getting their personal private information. They just don't like it. And I often, wish I could do more,
Sure.
Because I feel their pain, I feel their concerns. And this is not the way we as a country should operate.
I can tell. You have real empathy for these folks. I can tell. I mean, it just comes across, and I think that's a great thing. Do you believe there's cuts headed for Medicare or Medicaid? Because we hear, we hear that, and then we hear, no, that's not going to happen. No cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Is that true, or you don't believe that to be true?
Well, we don't know. But Medicaid, let's take Medicaid first. There's just no way we can cut $880 billion out of the budget and not affect Medicaid. It's just impossible.
Okay.
And Louisiana, which is an expansion state, there are so many poor people in Louisiana. And people to say, well, if you're on Medicaid, you don't work. No, that's not true. There are a lot of working poor people in this state.
Sure.
And $13 billion of the state's budget is Medicaid. It would be a terrible day. I'm just speaking, being personal, just speaking for my own state. Terrible day in Louisiana if we have to cut $880 billion out of the budget, and the only place we can cut it is Medicaid, because so many people will suffer disproportionately in the state of Louisiana.
It's like 1.4 million people?
Yeah, 1.4 million people, $13 billion. Not only, the trickle-down effect of that, people will lose their Medicaid and hospitals will close. And people don't realize the trickle-down effect. Just like taking these people jobs, the trickle-down effect, mortgages are not going to be paid.
Right.
Car insurance, car notes won't be paid. Some babies won't be fed. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, there is always
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect is a trickle down, and that's what will happen if we continue down this budget calamity that we're going down now.
Okay. Listen, I would like to continue this discussion, but we've hit our time limit here.
Jeff, I want to thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoy talking to you all the time, and you always have the tough questions. And I love it.
I don't know about that, but I try. I try to get some good stuff in there
Thanks.
once in a while.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Congressman Cleo Fields, who's been our guest. We'll do it again sometime?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Congressman Cleo Fields, our guest today on this edition of the app, ARKLATEX People and Politics. It's available wherever you get your podcast and on all KTBS digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and have a good one, everybody.